the love triangle, the love and the friendship of Robert Schumann, Clara Wieck Schumann, and Johannes Brahms. The way this program will be is, I'm not sure yet what will be the order of the pieces, but we'll make it up as it goes along. And there will be the Fantasiestücke by Schumann, Opus 12, the first 4 in the beginning and the last 4 at the end. Altogether it's 8 miniatures. And then in between there will be a piece by Clara Schumann, Scherzo, and then the song cycle, A Woman's Love and Life by Schumann. And then there will be some more songs, some Brahms. So we'll see. So Robert Schumann was born in 1810, one of the most fascinating figures of the 19th century, quintessential romantic composer. He suffered very early on from mental instability and created 2 alter egos that kept him company. One was called Florestan, which was the demonic, unpredictable, energetic character. And the other one was Eusebius, which was the dreamy, fantasy-like character. And these 2 characters come through in his music many times with no warning. As you will see in the Fantasiestücke, the first one being Eusebius, and with 0 transition, this second one, Florestan, just enters the room violently. So that's one aspect which is very important in his music. Another is that he was a sketch painter, like the ones that you find in Montmartre, Paris, or in Times Square, where people sit down and they sketch a person. Well, Schumann was able to sketch people in music. So in this piece called the Carnival, for example, which is a collection of 21 short pieces all together, making this Carnival, there are such short pieces. One is called Paganini, another one is called Chopin. He didn't like it though. Chopin didn't like it. But these sketches, these character pieces, were some people that Schumann knew, some people that Schumann did not know, some people that were real, and some people that were not real. Also, Schumann was fascinated by the Commedia dell'arte, and in this Carnival there is Pierrot, there is Harlequin, Columbine, all sorts of different kinds of clowns. Now, in the Fantasiestücke or in the songs, he didn't necessarily say what character it is. That's for you to decide. Above all, though, what influenced so much the music of Schumann is his love to Clara. Clara was the daughter of his teacher, Friedrich Wieck, and he came to study with Friedrich Wieck in 1830 when he was 20 years old. Clara was 11 at that time, and they started a romantic relationship when she was 16, to the great dismay of the father, who had lots of good reasons to object that. Clara actually was pursuing a career and became quite famous very early on. Schumann had a history of mental instability, history of drinking, and he wasn't really a famous composer at that time. So the father was right. But here is a letter that Schumann wrote to Clara around 1838, just about when he wrote these Fantasiestücke, which will start the program. My dearest Clara, how happy your letters have made me. My dear one, I have wept for joy to think that you are mine, and often wonder if I deserve it. Where do these thousands of thoughts, wishes, sorrows, joys, and hopes come from? Day in, day out, the procession goes on. I can never praise you enough for yourself or for your love of me, which I don't really deserve. Yours, Robert. These 4 pieces all have titles. The first one is called In the Evening. The second one is called Soaring. The third one is called Why, which in my mind, this is Schumann asking, Father, why can I not take your daughter's hand? That's why there's all these conversations between the voices in my imagination. And the fourth one is called Whims. And Clara was quite upset by all of these pieces. Carnival, 21 short pieces with all these titles. There is also a piece, wonderful piece by Schumann called David's Bundler Tänze, which is Schumann in his imagination created the League of David to fight the Philistines. The Philistines was the mediocrity in music. So he created in his mind these character pieces called Florestan or Zebius. Also there was Master Raro. And Master Raro is the put together of Cla, Ra, Ro, Bert. This is the Schumann that we're talking about. So Clara writes back to Schumann. Listen, Robert, couldn't you just once compose something brilliant, easily understandable, and without inscriptions? A completely coherent piece, not too long and not too short. I'd so much like to have something of yours to play that's specifically intended for the public. Obviously, a genius will find this degrading, but politics demand it every now and again. Here is the scherzo number 2 by Clara Schumann. between Clara and Robert. Clara, I was really attracted to Robert. He was the only man I had ever admired so much, except my father. Robert asked if he could marry me, and my father shouted no. Robert, her father made things very, very difficult. He did everything he could to keep us apart. Finally, he even turned on his beloved Clara. He sent her off on tours everywhere, all the time, so that we couldn't be together. Needless to say, he threw me out of the house. The one thing he never said was that I lacked talent, either as a composer or as a pianist. And in these wretched days, when Clara and I couldn't be together, I was still making headways, somehow, with my own work. Here is the song cycle by Robert Schumann.
Seit ich Herz am Den ersten Schmerz
When Clara turned 21, they got married. Very shortly after. And Clara described their wedding. We were married at Schönefeld at 10 o'clock. My whole self was filled with gratitude to him who had brought us safely over so many rocks and cliffs to meet at last. I prayed that he would preserve my Robert for many, many years. Indeed, the thought that I might one day lose him is enough to send me out of my mind. There was a little dancing, no excessive gaiety, but every face shone with real satisfaction. Even the sun, which had hidden its face for many days, shed its warm beams upon us as we drove to church, as if to bless our union. It was a day without a hitch, and I may thus enter it in this book as the fairest and most momentous of my life. We will do two songs, Der Nussbaum and Widmung by Schumann.
Stehen
On the 1st of October, 1853, in Düsseldorf, a young man, 19 years old, was introduced to Robert and Clara Schumann. He was introduced by the violinist Joseph Joachim. He sat at the piano and played music, compositions that he wrote. And Robert, who documented every day of his life since his teenage years, on that particular day wrote in his diary, "A visit from Johannes Brahms, a genius." Clara also kept a diary and wrote, "It touches the heart to see this young man sitting at the piano. His interesting face becomes transparent when he is playing. His beautiful hands overcome all difficulties. His works are very hard to play. His strange pieces, unforgiving, stubborn, rigid at times, but always beautiful and emotionally tempestuous. What he played for us sounded perfect. Robert says all that we should wish him is that heaven will keep him in good health." Schumann in 1834 founded a musical journal in which he introduced musicians and compositions. The first article that he ever wrote in this publication was called Opus 2, and it starts with this famous word by Florestan, his alter ego, "Hats off, gentlemen, a genius." And the reason it's called Opus 2 is because of a piece of a Polish composer, variations on a theme by Mozart from Don Giovanni, and that Polish composer was Frédéric Chopin. And at that time, no one knew who was Chopin. So he, in a way, introduced him to the world. In the last article in 1854, after 10 years that Schumann did not contribute any articles for this musical journal, he came back after 10 years to write one last article, which is called New Path. "Many years have passed since I've been heard, and a number of important new talents have now come along. A musical era has appeared to be in the offing, heralded by many rising young artists. And now, here he is, a young fellow at whose cradle graces and heroes stood watch. His name is Johannes Brahms. He is a man of destiny. Seated at the piano, he began to disclose the most wondrous regions. It was also the most wondrous playing, which made of the piano an orchestra of jubilant voices. May the highest genius lend him strength, and well it may, for in him resides a second genius, namely that of modesty. His contemporaries greet him as he sets off into a world which may bring him pain, but which will surely bring him laurels and palms as well." Continue the program with Brahms' Opus 119, number 4, the Rhapsody. On the 17th of February 1854, Schumann woke up that morning and was afraid that he might hurt Clara physically. He went on a bridge over the Rhine and threw himself into the Rhine, trying to commit suicide. A few months later, he was admitted into an asylum in Endenich, not too far from Bonn. And here's a few correspondences from these months. Schumann Clara received variations that Brahms wrote on a theme by Schumann, and he called it Variations on a Theme by Him, dedicated to her. Clara writes, "Dear esteemed Herr Brahms, you have given me deep joy with your tender attention. What I felt when I read your dedication of the variations I cannot say, yet you know it already inasmuch as you wrote it. And so accept my written thanks, the sincerest which I hope to give you soon in person. The news of my beloved Robert was tolerable today. He has been calm aside from a small insignificant disturbance. This is so very little for a loving heart that so longs to hope. Very hard are the days that I now live through. When I look at the dear little ones, they had 8 children, and think of the dear father who is suffering far from all who love him and who is not even aware of his existence, then I feel as though my heart would break from sorrow and pain. But I distress you, and that is not what I wanted. So accept my friendliest morning greetings from yours, Clara Schumann." And Brahms wrote to Joachim, the violinist, who introduced him to the Schumanns, "I believe I admire and honor her, Clara, no more highly than I love and am in love with her. I often have to restrain myself forcibly just from quietly embracing her, and even, I don't know. I think I cannot love a young girl at all anymore. At least I have entirely forgotten them. After all, they merely promise the heaven which Clara shows us unlocked." And Robert wrote to Brahms, "I keep being edified by your variations on my music. Many of them I would like to hear played by you and my Clara. Clara also wrote to me about ballades by you. What work of yours has appeared during our separation? How it would please me to get to know some of your new ones. Write to me again, dear Johannes, and also about our friends. Farewell, faithful friend. Talk about me and keep on writing. Your deeply devoted Robert Schumann." And I will invite Huna to come and sing to you Du bist the song.
It's the first one, Du bist wie eine Blume.
July 28, 1856. Dear Joachim, writes Clara, just a few words. I have been here since yesterday with Johannes in Endenich. That was more than 2 years that Clara did not see Robert. We are staying at the Deutsches house, but spend the day in Endenich. I saw him yesterday. Let me be silent about my suffering. But I did receive a few tender glances. Those I will take with me throughout my entire life. Once he even embraced me. He recognized me. I will not leave him anymore. That glance, not for all the world would I miss it any longer. We are just on our way there again. Think of him and of your Clara Schumann. And our last letter is by Brahms. Surely I will never again experience anything as moving as the reunion of Robert and Clara. At first, he lay for a long time with eyes closed, and she knelt before him, more calmly than one would believe possible. After a while, he recognized her. Once he plainly desired to embrace her, flung one arm wide around her. Of course, he had been unable to speak for some time already. One could understand only disconnected words. Even that must have made her happy. He had passed away very gently, so that it was scarcely noticed. His body looked peaceful. How comforting it all was. Thursday evening they buried him. I led the way, carrying the funeral wreath. Joachim and Dietrich came with us. Members of a choral society carried the coffin. There was wind music and singing. Robert died June 1856. Clara and Brahms lived many years more. Clara died in 1896, 40 years after Robert, and Brahms died less than 1 year after that, in 1897. So here is the concluding 4 movements from the Fantasiestücke that started the program. obvious that I am a talker, right? But sometimes instead of giving an encore, I think it's nice to have maybe a short session of question and answer, especially Hyuna. She loves talking also, trust me. But do you have any questions about us or the program? Or I don't know if Brahms and Clara ever had anything together. Brahms was very smart to destroy a lot of things. And apparently he proposed to one of Clara's children, Julie. So, which actually reinforces that probably they didn't. But there's, of course, so much friendship and so much music inspired by this friendship and love. Any questions? Just give me an upbeat, I will talk. Yes?
So, when you say explain, you want to know the content or the background, or? Yes, so it is a true, what we call true cycle. Oh, it's a lot of resonance. It's called true cycle. So he actually, when Schumann wrote, it's on the text of a poet called Chamisso, who actually is not very famous. Nobody really knows. But it's a poem by Chamisso. There's after, many, but Schumann just chose them to talk about a woman's life, love, and her life. Now, there's been a lot of controversies because of the way she says. You read some of the short translation that I put there. And like, oh, what do you mean? Like, did she not have any self-worth to say like, oh, I'm gonna like dedicate my life to him, I obey him and all that. But it was that time. I think Schumann meant to say, oh, a young girl who falls in love and like, oh, he's the most wonderful guy. And then, can't be. He actually loves me. And then, getting engaged and then having a wedding. So it's a life. And we don't know, but we think that maybe her husband had an untimely death. And so that grief. But then what Schumann did so beautifully that he always does is that he looped it all and ends the last postlude of this cycle with the very first, since I saw him, I think I'm blind. Because he's the only one I see everywhere I look. So it's this whole cycle. And you can take it as what it is. You might not like it, but it's just the story of a girl who falls in love and who has that tragedy. But still, yeah, there.
Interestingly, in the Chamisso, in the poems, there is one more poem at the end, but Schumann decided not to include it in his cycle. So again, it's a very conscious decision by the composer to write a cycle, to set to music a poem cycle. There are a few other cycles by Schumann. One is called the Dichte Liebe. Translate, how do you translate?
Poet's life. A poet's life.
Which is incredible. Yes?
So, oh, you mean this? Oh, no. So if you look at, maybe the translation didn't do the justice. I just wanted something simple so that you don't have to be stuck on the paper. But, so she's talking to her husband who is now dead. And so that's right. So from the very beginning, like, oh, since I saw him, I think I'm blind. So it's her story throughout. So it's oh, he, the most amazing of all men. And then all that. And then she said, sisters, help me at the wedding day. So it's a girl talking, woman talking all the way to the last song, which is now. Yeah, he's dead, and like, now you have given me the first pain. How could you do that? And you're sleeping the sleep of death. Now, what am I supposed to do? The world is empty. I've loved and I lived, and that's it. The veil falls, and in within me, I will have you again in my lost. So this is all her talking, her narrative from beginning to the end. Postlude.
Well, I think, first of all, if there's one word, there's so many words, but one word that I really love about the music of Schumann is ambiguity. Really. I can tell you what I think. I mean, Schumann doesn't exist if it's not ambiguous, and that there is multiple meaning. For me, personally, and Hina pointed out, it's so extraordinary. I mean, again, listen to Dichte Liebe. Over there, there's like a 1 page of epilogue, which is essence of the whole music. Here, interestingly, he basically quotes the first song. And just like Huna said, the first time I saw him, so, she goes back to the first time she saw him. And we were debating, there is in the beginning, first time, this theme, that tune, it has a future. And then when this theme comes at the end, it has a past. So psychologically, it's so different. Should I play it slightly slower, more reflective, more like a memory, or maybe more, actually, she tries to remember him? That's all open to interpretation. There's no way to indicate it. But for me, it's where it's kind of a closing the cycle where she goes back rather than feel, of course it's grief, but she decides to put herself in actually seeing him rather than crying, but rather it's so easy for Schumann to write extremely sad if you want it, but actually he ended in a major, which actually some people say major is much more sad than minor. There's major, happy, minor, sad, and then major, which is even sadder. So, I mean, again, that's where music is so beautiful because it's open to interpretations. Yes? After they got married. So much of it's very interesting how Schumann, his music is laid out. I don't think any other composer is like that. The first, like between 1830 and 1840, which is when he was between 20 and 30, he wrote massive music for piano. The Carnival, the Davidsbündler, the 3 sonatas, the Humoresque, the Fantasiestücke, the Kreisleriana. I mean, it's just endless. And each piece is like 30 minutes, 35 minutes long. And then he gets married in 1840 and writes 250 songs. So Dichte Liebe, Anfang, Lieben und Leben. And I mean, all of these, it's like 250 songs are written in like within a year, 1840. And then 1841, for the next 3-4 years, he writes all chamber music. Trios, quartet, quintet. So it's very interesting how he kind of bulk. And then, like after 1840, there are occasional solo pieces. But the music of Schumann that we most play are the music he wrote in his 20s. So the Frau Liebe und Leben was written after they got married. Absolutely. Like he tells their story in a way, yes. I mean, part of his mental instability was he was afraid he might hurt Clara. And that happened several times, these thoughts. And then in 1854, in February, he actually tried to commit suicide because of that. And then, yes.
just the Schumann. Schumann was very prolific, but also Clara.
Yeah, she wrote also music.
A lot.
And she was concertized. She was an amazing, one of the best pianists in Europe, and inspired so much music by so many composers. And close to Liszt, and she was close to Mendelssohn and Chopin, and premiered a lot of her music, of their music. Did you like the scherzo of Clara that I played? That was interesting. But there's several music that she wrote, like that inspired Schumann. So, and Schumann quotes her music in his music. There's that's the beginning of the Davidsbündler, Opus 6, and that's a quote from her Mazurka. And then he goes to his. Schumann loves quoting. Like you saw at the end of Widmung, there was Ave Maria, again quoting himself. What is it?
Sorry?
I didn't. Uh-huh. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And before we will meet and greet, just one big thank you to John Orlando and to Narcis for putting this series together, which is really extraordinary. And, you know, a couple of years ago, I asked if possible for your next concert, just bring one friend, because then they will have a double audience. So it's great. We will always play, but if you can share it with your friends, because it's such a jewel of a series, and we always love coming playing here, and this next year is going to look great as well. So share it, and hopefully you can bring a friend. So thank you all, and it's great to see you.